Holy comeback, Batman. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. I host Afternoon Sports Radio 105.5 WNSP in Mobile, covering South Alabama. And prior to that, covering the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, doing mornings on 103.7 The Game. Today's episode of Locked On Sunbelt is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your 2023 goals. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so a ton of stuff to talk about. We will be at the Senior Bowl Radio Row all week, so we'll see who we get from there. But we do have some big wins. Yesterday, South Alabama playing their most complete game on Saturday, and Marshall bouncing back from a tough loss. But the biggest win, and Southern Miss holding off Texas State, which we knew would be close. But how about those Louisiana Ragin Cajuns? We didn't really go over it enough on for Friday's episode, but they destroyed Troy on Thursday without, Player of the Year candidate Jordan Brown. That ball game was 41-17 at half, and they kind of cruised. The Cajuns cruised to like a 15 or 17-point victory against Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern could not miss. They were 20 of 29 in the first half. They were winning by 19 in the first half. It took them 20 minutes to build a 19-point lead. It was basically gone in 7.5. Let's see if I can find it, the play-by-play, when it became a 3-point ball game, like with about 12.5 minutes left. It became a 7-point ball game with 12:48 left. Kentrell Garnett makes a free throw. He did an and one, cutting it from a 10-point game to a 7-point game. It didn't become a 3-point game until Joe Charles with a layup, 9.5 minutes. So it took, and that made it 60-57. So it took 19 minutes to build a 20-point lead. It took less than 10 minutes to cut it to one possession. And it was the Ragin Cajuns from the get-go in the second half. They picked up full court pressure. Folks, the point guard, was pressuring the Georgia Southern point guard Finch, and to the point of being annoying. Like, Finch picked up 2 fouls, I think, in the first, Georgia Southern had 3 fouls in the first 40 seconds of the second half. In the first 40 seconds. In the first 7 seconds, Jalen Finch, offensive foul, he pushed off of Folks. All right. And then personal foul on Jalen Finch at 19:27. And then personal foul on Carlos Curry at 19:11. So in 49 seconds, they picked up 3 fouls. And it was just the Cajuns from there. The thing that did not happen is that they kind of methodically cut the lead, right? It took and then Georgia Southern hit some shots, right? It was, again, a 19-point lead. They got it down to 14. But then it got to 13, and it even went back to 15 at 15-14 of the second half. Derek Harris hits a 3-pointer, and it's a 15-point lead again. So, but they just kept on methodically coming, and then it got down to a 10-point lead. The first time it got down to a 10-point lead was on a couple of free throws by Terrence Lewis, 58-48. It got down to a 10-point lead, 60-50. Greg Williams made some key threes, but also made some free throws. And then they went cold. And then Georgia Southern could not hit a shot. They went from, let's find it out, driving layup by Jalen Finch at 14:31. That made it a 15-point game, 58-43. They went 7 minutes without getting a free throw. 7 minutes without making a field goal. Not at all. All right. Let's see here. When was the next field goal that they made? I'm looking, still looking. Kamari Brown makes one at the 5:54 mark. Now, they made a bunch of free throws in the second half. Both teams did. But just a thorough, good comeback and by the Ragin Cajuns because it looked like they were going to lose in a big way. And then it got turned around. Before we get to maybe the most surprising thing, is a little bit of an inside joke, but I'll share it with you anyways. The Cajuns ended up having like an 8-point lead. They led 90-82, and I thought this game was going from down 19 to winning by like 15. But the Cajuns wouldn't stop fouling, and for the most part, Troy hit their free throws. It got down at one point in time. It got down to, so it was a 79-71 ball game. So that's an 8-point lead. It got down to a one-possession game, 82-79. Cajuns missed a couple of trips down the court, and Troy makes free throws. But that was as close as Troy got. And I really thought it was going to be like down by 19 at half, winning by 15. They won by a comfortable 7 points. I don't think Troy ever had the ball to tie the ball game up. I don't think. No, I don't think so. I don't think they did. All right. The Cajuns did a good job of not giving Troy a chance, and just a great comeback by the Cajuns. Couple things. Troy had 2 blatant flagrant 1 fouls. Bradford underneath pushing I think he pushed Lewis to the ground or Jordan Brown to the ground. And then I think Harris pushed another Ragin Cajun when he was out of bounds. Like he blocked him out, and then he was out of bounds, and then kept him out of bounds. Cajuns didn't quite capitalize on that as much as they could have, right? It's a potential. You get 2 free throws in the ball. So you're looking at 5. You're looking at, 5 points per trip. You could get 10. I think they got 5. But nonetheless, just, Georgia Southern losing their composure from the get-go. And it does set up what could be, a huge ball game against Southern Miss. Now, Southern Miss and the Cajuns are, didn't the Cajuns already beat Southern Miss? So, they're tied atop the Sun Belt standings. But Southern Miss needs to win that basketball game. So even if, put it this way, even if the Cajuns lost the game and were down by 1 ball game in the standings to Southern Miss, and the Cajuns go into Hattiesburg and win, and they're tied again, the Cajuns still are the number 1 seed because they've beaten Southern Miss twice. So Southern Miss needs to win this basketball game coming up. All right, the other surprising thing, and he is notorious for this, Bob Marlin. I call it a Bob Marlin special. It is shocking how it happens, but he calls these timeouts when the Ragin Cajuns are on a run. Like it'll be like a 14-2 run or a 12-0 run. And for some reason, like after a 3 or maybe an and 1, he'll call a timeout. Why, I don't know. He likes the idea of the other coach yelling at the team. All right. But sometimes, and a lot of times, it settles the team down. In this case, he did not do it. Georgia Southern called 2 timeouts rather quickly, and they were down to 1 timeout, like with 10 minutes left to go. And the first timeout that Bob Marlin called was, with under a minute to go, A, to give his team a break, all right, because they were playing full court the whole entire second half, and B, just to kind of set up the defense, which I understand at that point in time. That's a fine timeout. But many times he calls timeout in the middle of his own run, and it makes no sense, and he didn't do it this time. And they come away with the victory. Also, he did a really good job with the bench. He got folks out there, put Thomas in. He got Jordan Brown out of there, put some other guys in. He did a really good job managing his bench the way that they were playing all out, throughout the second half. Great win for the Ragin Cajuns. Brutal loss for Georgia Southern. a brutal loss. Who the Georgia Southern was all of one game back. So that's a brutal loss for the Eagles. All right, let's take a timeout. We will come back and do the rest of the Sun Belt. Again, Marshall with a big win, Southern Miss with a big win, and South Alabama with a big win. But first, let me tell you about FanDuel. All right, the NFL playoffs are here, and we're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, join today to get started with $150 in free bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all of your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at bigger payouts with the same game parlay. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So, football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're recording this before we know who is in the Super Bowl. So, of course, that'll be the big game coming up. And plenty of props to bet on that. I'm a big always call tails. Bet on the coin flip, always call tails. So we'll do that. Okay, elsewhere in the Sun Belt, let's start with a game that I saw. That was the most complete game I've seen South Alabama play. They take down Troy 77-60, and I don't know what's going on with Troy, to be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure what is wrong with Troy. They were a pretty good basketball team. They got hammered by the Cajuns. They were never in that ball game, and they fell behind South Alabama 16-5. They made a nice little run to make it a 5-point game, and that was as close as they got midway through the first half. There was never a game in the second half. The South Alabama, about as complete game as you can play. Isaiah Moore, although he didn't shoot particularly well in this game, 11 out of 25, led the team with 23 points. He is just an anomaly, and I can't believe I said that word correctly, when it comes to basketball. He is 6'6", maybe, and all his shots are within 3 feet of the bucket. He did not attempt a three-pointer. He actually made his own free throw, but everything he does is layups. And I'm really going to guess 90% of the time he's going up against a bigger guy. And he just does a really good job with the off arm, keeping them off of him and being able to get it up on the glass. Now, sometimes he gets a shot blocked or he's cut off with help defense, but so often they don't get to him in time. And, I mean, he is a floater machine. Is that a thing? Because he is. The thing is about this game is they got more than one guy to help out. So far this year, it's usually been Isaiah Moore and Kevin Samuel, and that's been about it. And in this game, Isaiah Moore scored 23. Kevin Samuel was 10 and 13 plus 4 blocks, affected many more shots than that. But Turbo Jones, 6 and 9, 15 points. Greg Parham off of the bench, 13 points. And we've been talking about Greg, very efficient on Saturday, 4-6 from the floor, 2-4 from 3. Just the first time in over a month, like 6 weeks since he's had 2 3-pointers in a game. And so they didn't only have, 1 or 2 guys in double figures. They had 4 guys in double figures. Judah Brown, 6 points. Owen White had 8 points. Marshall carrying only 2 points, but he immediately came in and got an offensive rebound and put it back up for his bucket, right? Jamar Franklin didn't play very much. So that'd be the one thing I'm going to look forward to next time. They basically played 6 guys. That's basically it. Marshall Kearing played 10 minutes. Jamar Franklin played 4 minutes. Greg Parham played 30 off of the bench. Owen White played 29 as a starter, but Judah Brown, 31. He got the start. Kevin Samuel, 30. Isaiah Moore, 36. And Turbo Jones, 30. So they really cut the bench down it was generally 6 players. That's going to be a problem come tournament time, but let's see what happens. They do go on a 3-game road trip, a little bit of an oddity. Senior Bowl in town, and they don't like being in the same spot at the same time. So they are at Arkansas State. They are at Monroe. 2 winnable ball games. Obviously, Monroe is tough, but those are 2 winnable ball games. And then they're at Troy again. We'll see if Troy bounces back. But a big win for South Alabama, and they do have the potential. They just need, more than Isaiah Moore and Kevin Samuel to show up. And on Saturday, they did. Not only did they have, 4 guys in double figures, but they had some good role players contributing to the point total as well. All right. Elsewhere in the Sun Belt, Marshall, who had that awful loss, not awful loss, but huge win by ULM on Thursday, bounces back in a big way. They take their frustrations out on Georgia State. Georgia State struggles on the road. We've mentioned that. Marshall hammered them 103 to 65. Let's check out this box score. Andrew Taylor, 20 points on 7 of 10 shooting. Tavian Kinsey, 18 points on 6 of 12 shooting. They combined for 4 of 7 from 3. All starters for Marshall had double figures. Connor off the bench had 10 points. Easy victory for Marshall. They moved to 18-5, 7-3 overall. They are 1 game back behind the Cajuns and Southern Miss. Georgia State drops to 2-8 in conference play and 9-13 overall. It's been a tough year for the Panthers. All right, but a good job by Marshall to, shake that 1 loss off. Got to be a tough loss. They had chance in regulation to win that game. They had a chance in the first overtime to win that game. And then they had a chance in the second overtime to win that game. And they let it slip away, which is a good job by ULM. All right, elsewhere, the other ball game, Southern Miss had to hang on. A little bit of I think, a deceiving score, 67-58 over Texas State. Again, no Mason Harrell. And Texas State is just a thorn in everybody's side to play. They're tough to play because they play really good defense. Let's see what Southern Miss shot. 41%, although they did shoot 36% from 3. Maybe got away with it a little bit. Only 21 of 30 from the free throw line, but that's a bunch of free throw attempts. Texas State actually had the lead late, 3:23 to go. Nate Martin makes a layup. It's 55-53. And from there, it ends up being a 14-3 run for Southern Miss. So Southern Miss finishes up really strong down the stretch. Let's see here. Austin Crowley, 38 minutes, 24 points. Hesse had 17 points, and DeAndre Pinckney, is DeAndre, right? 10 points. It is DeAndre Pinckney. He had 10 points. They did not, they got Alvarez off the bench had 7, and Mormon had 6 points, but they played some guys. Ivory didn't score, but he played 16 minutes off the bench. And Texas State struggling without their leading scorer. But again, it is not an easy ball game when you're playing Texas State. All right, so Southern Miss 19-4. They're 8-2 in conference play. They're atop the standings with the Cajuns, although the Cajuns technically are on top because they've already beaten Southern Miss. On ESPN.com, it's showing the Cajuns are second, but that's because they have 1 less overall win. Southern Miss 19-4. The Cajuns are 18-4, but the Cajuns beat Southern Miss pretty handily, 75-61. That was in Lafayette earlier this year. All right, let's take one more time out, and we'll come back and we'll do the rest of the Sun Belt action from Saturday, and we will also preview the shows, which should all be set to go as we are busy at a Senior Bowl week this week. Speaking of that, Locked On is heading to the Senior Bowl. Get inside analysis from the hosts that covered the NFL's next generation in college and find out which NFL draft boards these players will be climbing, all in one location. Subscribe to Locked On NFL Draft for nightly live shows from the Senior Bowl, Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. And speaking of the Senior Bowl, so who will we have? We're doing this show on Monday. Tuesday, we will have Executive Director Jim Nagy will join us from the Senior Bowl. On Wednesday, GJ Kinney, I think I said that right, from not from Kansas, from Texas State will hop on. And then hoping against hope, we have John Hartwell from ULM, the new athletic director from the Warhawks, will join us on Thursday. So we're lining these up because it is a busy, busy week working the Senior Bowl here in Mobile. But it is a ton of fun. And as you'll find out, we go over all the players from the Sun Belt with Jim Nagy. And there's 8 players from the Sun Belt. 2 from Troy for first time ever. 2 from South Alabama, first time ever. You have 2 from App State. That's 6. And then you have Gerard Clark from Coastal and the lineman from Saldivari from Old Dominion. So there's 8 Sun Belt players in the Senior Bowl, and we will certainly do our best to be following them. We've had a lot of them on the show already. All right, quickly, let us recap the rest of the Sun Belt from Saturday and go from there. Not sure there. Let's see the rest of it. James Madison does take down Monroe. Monroe only 45 points, 18 in the second half. James Madison, a nice win at home, 58-45. Monroe shut down in the second half, led by 1 in the first half. But James Madison, they're the leading scoring team in the Sun Belt. They were anyways. And they only were held to 58 points. But Monroe just could not find the bucket, only 45 points for the Warhawks. Old Dominion, their second win on the road in a row. They beat Coastal Carolina 60-59. Old Dominion improves to 5-5. They hit the road 3-5. They come beat South Alabama, and then they go back to the coast and they beat Coastal Carolina. So a nice win for the Monarchs there. Goodness gracious, Long, he had the final points in the ball game for Old Dominion against the Jaguars. My goodness, 19 points and 19 rebounds. That's a ball game. Whoa, that's an impressive ball game, to say the least. App State, they defeated Arkansas State 63-51. App State now 13-10, 6-4 in the Sun Belt. Kind of a lost season for the Red Wolves. They are 9-14, 1-9 in the Sun Belt. And we've given you the rest of the scores. So quickly, let's go over the standings. All right, as we mentioned, Southern Miss and the Cajuns are tied, both 8-2, but the Cajuns have beaten Southern Miss, so they were technically above the Golden Eagles. Marshall is 1 game back, 7-3. James Madison, App State, Monroe, that was it. James Madison, App State, Monroe, all 6-4. Old Dominion is 5-5, along with Troy and Georgia Southern. They're 3 back. Texas State, Coastal Carolina, 4 back. South Alabama, 5 back. And then you have Georgia State, 6 back, and Arkansas State, 7 back. It'll be interesting because they have a chance. Winning on the road is not easy, but South Alabama has a little bit of a chance. They're going to Arkansas State. They're going to Monroe. That's not going to be easy. And they are going to Troy. All right. They have the potential to climb the standings pretty quickly. Even if you win 2 and lose 1, you're still 5-8. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out for you. But somehow if you win all 3 and you're 6-7, you're not going to be all that far away because 2 of the teams you're chasing are in front of you. So we'll see. And then, of course, let's see, they're talking about this Southern Miss game hosting the Cajuns. That is in a couple of weeks. So Southern Miss is at Troy and at Georgia State. Georgia State struggling, but they're pretty good at home. Troy, I'm not sure what's going on at all for the last couple of games. So there's a couple of games in there before Southern Miss hosts the Cajuns. And the Cajuns are, let's see. The Cajuns will have, they get Texas State and Marshall. So those are back-to-back tough games if you're looking at. I mean, those are 3. That's a gauntlet right there for the Cajuns. They're hosting Texas State. They're hosting Marshall, and then they're at Southern Miss. We're going to find out a lot about the Cajuns. I'm thinking they can handle Texas State, although, again, that's an up-tempo team in the Cajuns and a slow-down team in Texas State, but everyone seems to play at Texas State's tempo. They beat Texas State a couple weeks ago, 60-51, exactly making my point. So that won't be easy. Then you get a big matchup on Saturday the 4th against Marshall, and then the next week on Thursday, you get a big matchup against Southern Miss. So that'll be a big week for the Cajuns, Southern Miss, and Marshall, for that fact of the matter. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Still so impressed with the Ragin' Cajuns. A comeback on Saturday against Georgia Southern, down 19, and they actually win by 7, 94-87. Unbelievable. And you could just see it coming and coming and coming and coming. And I guess give credit for Georgia Southern for making it a 1.1 possession game again, but never had a shot to either tie it or take the lead. All right. Once again, I'm your host, Dave Schultz, and you've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.